Hi beautiful people, you're welcome once again to my channel. If this is your first time, please do well to like, share and subscribe. In this tutorial I'll be showing you how I was able to come up with this beautiful Bubu short dress. If this is what you like to know how to make, stay with me till the end of this tutorial. Thank you very much. So now let's get straight to the business. In this tutorial I'll be using a 4 yards of an Ankara print. I already folded my Ankara print into 4. Actually, I wanted to use this white net at first, but I later changed my mind and I used another fabric. After folding your fabric into 4, you go ahead and place your tape right from the top part of the dress and measure the length of your dress. Please do well to add your seam allowance, 2 inches, 1.5 inches, depends on your choice. After I'd successfully done that, I went ahead to measure the sleeve length. I used the whole of the fabric. I think I used 23 inches or 22. So from there, I measured from my shoulder down to my bust, which I used 12 inches. So right there, I divided my hip by 4 and I added extra 3 inches because it's a Bubu dress. Then I connected to the bust area. I took that same measurement down to the hem of the dress. Whenever you are cutting a Bubu dress, always ensure to use the bigger part of your body in cutting out whatever you have to cut out, which is the hip. The hip is the bigger part of the body. I took that same measurement straight down and I connected over to the bust. After then, I moved straight to the neckline. I used a neckline of 3 inches in width and 1.5 inches in depth for the back. I went over to use 3 inches for the depth of the front and I connected. Then I measured 1 inch for my shoulder slant. I took that 1 inch straight to the neckline and I connected it. After I was done doing that, I decided to cut out the back neckline first. And I traced out my measurements. After then, I separated the two bodies. I took out the back. Now I'm left with the front. The front is going to be having a very tiny slant, like an opening. I used 4 inches. I came down by 4 inches. Then I measured ½ inch right there and connected it just to make it have this kind of V shape. And then I cut out. Do not forget that this dress is having a bishop collar. That is why I didn't make the wideness of the neckline to be too much. So after then I picked out one of the pieces. I'll be using this piece to turn out that opening beneath the neckline. So you place it just like this, right after the neckline from the opening, and then you trace that out. This was how it was looking after I was done tracing that out. But then I found out it was going to be too big at the side, and I decided to cut it out. The next thing to do now is to put a stay on that piece. So I already put a stay, and I was done. I went ahead to turn it over. I turned it over and I gave it a very good press. So now it's time to locate where our pocket is going to be. I measured from the shoulder of the dress down to the half length of the dress. I was using a half length of 17 inches, but I made it 19 inches. I wanted it to just come down a little bit from the half length. I added extra 2 inches. After doing that, the next thing to do is to go ahead and cut out the pocket. So to cut out the pocket, I folded my piece into two. And I measured out 10 inches for the length. I think 10 or 12 for the length and also the width. And I connected them together. After connecting, I wanted it to just have a little bit of curve beneath. So I went to the two sides. I went up by ½ inch, took it down, and also took it up on the other side again. ½ inch from that edge and ½ inch on this side, and I connected. I wanted it to have just that slanted curve beneath. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So now let's go over to place it on our dress. I located the midpoint of the dress. That was about, I made it 3 inches apart from the midpoint of the dress. leaving at least 2 inches at the side of the dress. So now after successfully placing it, the next thing to do is you go over to your sewing machine, you turn the upper part of the dress. Like this. Then you sew the remaining sides down to the dress. Then you sew it down. Okay, this is what I was trying to say. I wanted to use this white net. That was my plan at first, but later I realized the net wasn't giving me that effect I wanted. Then plus the color seemed kind of off. That was why I decided to go for a black organza. I didn't show where I was where I cut the organza, but I did cut out the organza the same way I cut out this net. So now you measure out 2 inches. For the strip and you cut out. So now you'll be cutting different pieces of this. You are not just using one. As long as you can gather, you keep cutting and you see you get to know once it becomes full. You get to know when it gives you that effect you need. So now in okay, I was trying to say that instead of this I used the organza. So now just assume I am working with an organza fabric. So now you hold that your organza fabric in your hand just like that. Then you begin to gather from the edge of that pocket. You gather just like that and you sew. You gather and you sew. It is after you are done gathering, you open it up like this and you top stitch it. So you do the same for the two sides of the dress. Sorry, the two sides of the pocket. This is the outcome after I was done gathering. I gathered and I top stitched. I was still trying to explain why I didn't use that net here, but I hope you understand, and I hope you see from the result I got with the organza. So you top stitch, yes, make sure you top stitch so as to allow the dress to relax. Now the next thing to do is to put the two bodies together, the front and the back. You'd want to go ahead to your sewing machine and join the two shoulders together. Now I was done joining the two shoulders of the dress together. It's time to work on the side of the sleeve. This dress is having a ruched effect on the sleeve side. So now in order to create that ruched effect, you go ahead and bring one of your pieces again. I used a length of 10 inches. And also a width of 2 inches. So now we'll be cutting two of this piece, one for the first sleeve and the other for the second sleeve too. So you go over to your dress, place it on that center part, you know that point where you join the sleeve, just place it like that on it, making sure you leave at least 2 inches before the hem of the sleeve. This is what you do. Yes, you take the fabric like that, you hem it in at that side, hem it in on the other side too. Then after hemming, you now run a stitch at the middle. This will help you to be able to pass. This will enable to, it will allow you to get a hole where you pass your what's it called, your rope. I hope that is clear. You do the same for the two sides. So now it's time to cut out our rope. Depends on how long you want your rope to be. So just cut out whatever length you want for the rope. Put your fabric and you cut out 1 inch for the rope. Do not forget that we're using 2 ropes for the 2 sleeves. So now you head over to your sewing machine, then you take your rope like this and sew for the 2 rows. Now let's open it up and pass in our rope. See what I was trying to explain the other time. After doing that, I hemmed the sleeve. The hem of the sleeve, I hemmed it. So now I picked my pin and now I'm passing my rope just from the under of the dress, like from that side of the hemline for the sleeve. You pass it up, then you take it down also. Pass the rope up, then you bring it down from the second side. And then you tie. be repeating the same process for the other side of the dress. The other side of the sleeve I meant. Now after doing that, you turn your fabric inside out your dress, then you sew on both sides from the sleeve straight down with your seam allowance. Now we were done. The next thing to do is to cut out the collar. So now to cut out your collar, fold your dress like this from the center back. Then you measure what you have. As for me, after measuring, I had 19 inches. Which was 9.5 for each side. Let's pick up our piece now to cut out the collar. This is the best way I have been cutting out my own bishop collar. There are different ways you can cut a bishop collar, but you do what works for you, and this has been working for me. So now fold your fabric into two. Now you try to create a curve, just something here, to just a curve just like that, as I am showing you. Now you now measure the width of your collar. You measure what you want your collar to be. As for me, I'll be using 2.5 inches. Then you measure it just like that. Measure the 2.5 inches round. So now do not forget that you just have to measure. You see that 19 inches we measured on the collar. This is where you'll be measuring it out. And make sure to add extra 1 inch allowance or 1.5 inches allowance. And then you connect it. If you like, you could give it a curve just below, right there. And if you like, you could leave it straight. And you cut out. So now I'll be cutting two of this piece. We'll be cutting out two of this piece. Make sure to notch the center. Cut out the second piece. Place it the same way you placed the first one, in that slanted kind of shape, or curved, or should I call it curved? Yes, that curved kind of shape. After that, you notch. The next thing to do is to put our stay. You bring one of the piece and you place on the stay. and you cut it out just like that. So now I'll head over to my ironing board and iron the stay on it. Now I've ironed the stay on it. You put the two pieces together. Then you sew the upper part of the dress. You sew that cuffed part of the dress. After sewing it from one end to the other, you sew on the sides too, on that side with cuff. Please do not forget to notch. After notching, you turn it inside out. The next thing to do now is to pick up your dress. You see that part we notched, that center part. You put it on the dress, then you sew from one end to the other. After sewing from one end to the other, you take it just like that and use it to cover your sewings, and this is what you get. Thank you so much for watching. If you have watched this moment, please do not forget to subscribe. Bye.